So today we're going to talk about the difference between some type of numbers in math. So you might have seen these terms: natural number or natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, and rational numbers. And you might be wondering what the difference is between these terms. Well, in this video, I'm going to clarify what the difference between each and every one of these terms. So let's first start off with natural numbers. What are natural numbers? Natural numbers. Well, natural numbers are all the counting numbers. Okay? All the counting numbers. So it's the numbers that we usually use in everyday life to count certain objects. For example, if you go to the grocery store and you pick up 5 apples, 5 is a counting number. Okay? And 5 is a natural number. Okay? Or you go to the bakery and you ask the baker for a dozen loaves of bread. Okay? So you're asking the baker for a dozen loaves of bread. So you're asking the baker for 12 loaves of bread. So 12 in this case is a natural number. Okay? So natural numbers are all the counting numbers. So all the numbers we usually use to specify a specific quantity of something. Okay? So natural numbers start from 1 and go on to infinity. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Okay? So that's what natural numbers are. So now let's look at whole numbers. What are whole numbers? Well, whole numbers, if you can remember what natural numbers are, whole numbers is easy. Whole numbers are all the natural numbers. Okay? All the natural numbers. But including 0. Okay? This is the key. Including 0. Counting numbers, natural numbers do not include 0. Okay, so up here, natural numbers do not include 0. Natural numbers start at 1, but whole numbers include 0. So 0 is actually a whole number. Okay? So again, key is whole numbers are all the natural numbers, but it includes 0. Next, let's look at integers. Integers. What are integers? Well, this is pretty easy too. If you can remember what a whole number is, it's easy to remember what an integer is. An integer is any positive, or, this is key here, or negative whole number. Okay? So essentially, integers are whole numbers, but they can also be negative. Okay, this is the key. They can also be negative. Whole numbers cannot be negative. For example, 5 is a whole number. Okay. And it's also an integer. However, negative 5 is an integer, but is not a whole number. Because remember, the key here is a whole number are all the natural numbers, but including 0. But what are natural numbers? Remember when we talked about up here? Natural numbers are counting numbers, and they start at 1. Right? This is the key here. They start at 1. Okay, so the key thing to remember about integers is they can be either positive or negative, but in the case of natural numbers and whole numbers, they can only be positive. Okay, so let's look at the last type of number, rational. So what are rational numbers? So rational numbers are basically fractions. So numbers that can be written as fractions. So in the form of, so for example, if you had a fraction like 1 over 2 or 3 over 4 or I don't know, 40 over 75, any fraction. So rational numbers are fractions written like this, in this form. However, there's one exception. The denominator cannot be 0. Cannot be 0. Okay? So rational numbers are fractions. Okay? And what are fractions? Well, fractions are just integers, right? So you have an integer in the numerator and an integer in the denominator. So you can also say that rational numbers are basically a number that can be expressed as a fraction of two integers. Okay? So a fraction of two integers is a rational number. So if you think about it, all natural numbers, whole numbers, and integers are actually rational numbers. Why? Because let's pick a natural number such as 5. 5 can be written as 5 over 1, right? Because any number can always be written as over 1. Okay, so let's say you had the number 7,000. You can write 7,000 as 7,000 or 7,000 over 1. Okay, and same thing for negative numbers. So any integer. So let's say you had negative 5. You can write negative 5 as negative 5 over 1, right? And what's negative 5 over 1? It's a fraction, right? And what did we say about rational numbers? They're fractions, right? That are written like this, as in two integers, right? A rational number, by definition, is a number that can be expressed as a fraction of two integers. Okay? So again, by that definition, natural numbers, whole numbers, and integers are all rational numbers. Okay? The only key thing to obviously remember here again is that the denominator cannot be 0. The denominator cannot be 0. But apart from that, everything else is fair game.